All right. So, welcome back to the podcast. We're just going to get right into it, right out the gate. We got our World Cup episode featuring Amari Richards, Jared Brown, and Winston. Right, man. Let's get it. So, I'm very excited to be here with y'all today. Uh, but let's start with a little icebreaker introduction type question. So we're gonna go around. Y'all, if y'all could just introduce yourself and share which team you all were rooting for during the World Cup, like at the very beginning of the tournament, not when everyone got eliminated. Who were you rooting for at the very beginning, and tell us why you were rooting for them. I can start since I'm the host, but my name is Nathan. I'm the podcast intern at Brothers in Public Health, UMass Boston, undergrad student going into my junior year, and at the very beginning of the tournament, y'all can see the jersey. I was repping Brazil because that's where my mom's from. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I don't
Yes,
know. They
sir.
they they kind of fell off a little bit. I feel like they're starting to turn into like the Dallas Cowboys of soccer. Like there's a lot of hype going into every season, but or every World Cup, but I don't know. It just never works out. But it's okay. I still got love for Vinny Jr. and everything. But I was also repping America. I fell into the hype train a little bit. I was rocking with them boys, but I don't know. It was mainly Brazil at the beginning. Anyone who should I pass it on to? Anyone want to take over?
I could go next. My name is Jared. I am a master's public health student at Cal State Northridge. I'm in my last year, thank God. And yeah, I was rooting for Morocco. I'm not gonna lie. Like Hakimi, he came off a really good season in the ML. And I guess I don't know. He kind of been carrying their team. I thought they were gonna do really well. They made it really far, so obviously they can contend with like the Argentinians and the Brazils of the world. But unfortunately, we all saw that game, and yeah, not a good watch. But it's all right. It's all right. We still made it. So
Yeah, the African countries. You're repping the African countries.
only could represent Morocco. Unfortunately, Puerto Rico was not in the tournament. We got to pick one or the other. Pick Morocco.
That's a good answer.
I'll go next. Winston, and honestly, I can't pick one team. Unfortunately, I never do. I usually have four. But first team, always USMNT. No matter what the circumstances are, I'm born and bred here, family as well. So, I'm gonna always root for our boys. Also, this was the blackest starting 11, most colorful starting 11 we ever have had in the history of our team. We started actually very colorful, like way back in the day. But to have like this many players all playing in Europe, top or not all, but many playing in Europe, top level. First game, incredible, and then yeah, that happened. After that, Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, because I'm a Man United fan, so I want to see my boy Ahmad do well. I always root for one African team. After that, England, unfortunately, because I'm a big Premier League fan as well, so I want to see my English boys do well. And then France, just because they hella black. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. Good day, everyone. Omari Richards, one of the co-founders of Brothers in Public Health, also co-founder of the Public Health Millennial. Happy to be here. Happy Arsenal fan, Bayern Munich fan as well. So it's all good all around. It's all good all around. Team for the World Cup. My family supports Netherlands. My mom grew up in Suriname, a colony of the Dutch. So my family supports the Netherlands. So that's who I support in this World Cup. They lost to Morocco, unfortunately, but Morocco's a good squad. They got a good squad, and I feel like outside of Netherlands is probably well, I gotta say Trinidad and Tobago. That's my team. I don't know if they're gonna make it anywhere close to the World Cup, but I'll pray. I'll pray. But France, I think, was like just a pleasure to watch. I actually got to watch the France Morocco game in Boston, and that was a vibe. So yeah. It was so happy to be able to experience that.
That's tough. That- A lot of, as y'all see, a lot of representation of even within just us of the teams that we're rooting for, and like Winston said, a lot of representation amongst all these different countries out here. I was surprised myself to see how many brothers out there representing amongst all these different countries, that was tough to see, man. But we all love soccer, we all love sports, but uh, as these things tend to be, there's always a little bit of politics and everything, a little political, a little bit of politics and all sorts of sporting activities. And we saw a lot of that come up during the World Cup, and I think one of the biggest headlines in the World Cup, relating to just politics and racism and all, all sorts of different things, relating to the brothers especially, was this Mbappe headline. And the story goes is like y'all know Kylian Mbappe was repping he said he's claiming France because of Kylian Mbappe. We got the brothers on that squad. He's one of the leading brothers on that team. He was the Golden Boot winner from this World Cup, and he and the French national team became part of a big, broader conversation about racist comments after they beat Paraguay in their game in the knockout stage. Because after that game, racist comments from a public official, a senator in Paraguay, Celeste Amaria, in Paraguay, that she made a racist comment that drew uh, international criticism actually. And I can read it here. Just I almost don't want to read it because it's so crazy, but I think just to give context, uh, Maria said, I believe on Twitter, that brute never even learned to write. Instead of breast milk, he sucked on coconuts, and the most educated creature he ever listened to were chimpanzees. So just crazy statements coming from a highly ranked government official from Paraguay after a soccer game. And we see this happen. This is not just unique to Paraguay. We see this happen in America, all over the world, honestly. But incidents like this remind us that racism isn't just limited to social media, but it can come from people of power, like the senator. And when this discriminatory language is used by government leaders, it can kind of shape our public attitudes, influence policies, and negatively affect the health and well-being of marginalized communities that they're supposed to be representing. So my question to y'all is, when racist comments like these come from government officials or from people in power, how does this kind of like affect these communities of color, and how can we as everyday people like hold these politicians and public health leaders, whether yeah, because we have Department of Public Health politicians and leaders in our government, and just all these elected officials in our government, how do we hold these public institutions accountable to really being considerate about their word choice and representing people of color, especially in these moments where they're being blatantly racist or making these comments like this? This is a genuine question for me because this I'm not entirely sure how to go about this as someone who wants to advocate against hate speech like this. I'm not 100% sure about how I would go about this. So any kind of commentary y'all have on this would be very much appreciated. This is a very interesting question I have for y'all. I'm excited to get this discussion going. But if anyone wants to open up, feel free.
I mean, I'll go and try to be as quick as possible for this first question because I have other thoughts. So I think the first thing, like, let's just in terms of action, like, what can we actually do? So this lady was a senator, so she's a representative, and I'm not sure about the system in Paraguay, but in the United States, that would mean she would have to be voted in. So first thing is we got to be civically engaged. We got to be aware of who represents us at the local and state level, and we have to condemn them and shame them and not give them our vote when it comes to the representation and them having this power. So I think that's the first thing. I think when this kind of racism comes from government officials, immediately, and it's crazy because she's talking about not even killing him. She's talking about his family, the people around him, the community. She's really talking about us. Like, she's not even like almost even directly attacking him if you really just look at her quote plainly. I feel like what this does, in the United States, this sanctions violence against these communities of color, right? If we go back in the day, it was like random mobs, vigilantes, Klan, all these kinds of people terrorizing our communities, like literally, and also like regular civilians also literally terrorizing our communities. Um, to the police and military. Now we have ICE, and that began in 2016 with very racist rhetoric as President Trump was running for office, and so like we know that that's what this leads to as well. And I think like as I travel throughout Latin America, I'm gonna be real. Like people definitely tell me that obviously there's racism, there's colorism there. Like all these elements exist there, for sure. Whether or not they're as pronounced, as they may be in the U.S. until something like this surfaces, I feel like ultimately it still perpetuates narratives where no matter what country you go to, most of the times if you're in the hood in a big city, it's a black neighborhood. Like no matter what the country is, that's been my experience in multiple countries so far. So it continues to kind of keep a stigma on a people that otherwise are just trying to live their life. And so yeah, so vote, be informed of these people, shame them, and hold them accountable at the ballot box. Is kind of like how I feel we gotta. There's one thing that we could do, one strategy.
Yeah, plus one to all of that. I don't know. I feel like it's in this day and age where we have all kinds of politicians saying crazy shit all the time. It's like how do we can't necessarily maybe hold them accountable to those what they're saying and stuff like that. But I think like to Winston's point is we can hold them accountable to organizing and saying like this is not the leadership that we want as a country, as a nation. I know in Paraguay there was some pushback and some people that distanced themselves from that politician that made the remarks. And I think that is what needs to be done, just generally speaking. And I don't think it is being done to the scale that is necessary. Um, but for all of us, I think each of us has to know that we have a part to play in choosing the leadership that we have and educating ourselves and the people around us about the importance of that. And I think we're ever more seeing the importance of that in our like daily lives. I think before people would brush it off and say, it doesn't really affect me here or there, but like when policies are so drastic, I think it really does call for people actually realizing that not doing anything is not an answer. So that's what I gotta say. But I don't know, it's tough. We got so many political leaders all across, not in any country, just very right wing, very radical in many ways, and I don't know. It's just where the world is kind of swinging at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, I ditto to everything y'all said. I think for me, like when it comes to thinking about action, it always comes back to like if something makes you like this incident, for example, like empowers you to be like, man, what can I do? I think a simple change in mindset is always important. A lot of people don't ever think of the value of the terminology that comes with like think global and act local. I feel like that's such a huge kind of shift in how you can start to like navigate how you might want to show up in these situations. Because as someone who comes from like Latinx descent and Black descent, it's very evident growing up. Like you mentioned earlier, Winston, in our communities, like racism and anti-Blackness is not something that's just subjugated to the United States. It's also these communities, and very often, like you have these states or these countries like Paraguay, who have these like indigenous pasts where you have people in their country who literally are indigenous folks to the land, are darker skin. And so it just doesn't make sense to me. Like oftentimes you hear this kind of rhetoric and it's like it just seems anti-intellectual. It's like a rage bait almost, I feel like sometimes. But I think when you learn to think global and act local, you start to kind of realize like, man, on the local level, I could really find some homies. We could hit up a 7-Eleven, get some snacks, and watch the game together, and not worry about these Paraguay fans that think that this is okay. But on the global level, you got to pay attention, and even like everyone else said, getting that same group of friends you met with at the 7-Eleven. Hey, are you gonna vote? You got your ballot? You know that kind of stuff, like holding each other accountable, really.
Yeah, this is a great discussion, and it's
And
very
and
relevant to. Oh, sorry, my
and if
fault.
I and if no, you gotta say sorry. But if I could just add, like I feel like we often just say like go vote, but there's so many other things that you can do outside of voting. Like find out where your county commissioner meetings are and go to them. Find out the groups that are organizing around the issues or the communities or the populations that you care about, and meet with them. Um, we can't continue to, I feel like, marginalize our power to like this one vote that we make every couple of years. We need to um, continue to find spaces to be more vocal or more active in that. Passing it back to you, Nathan.
I appreciate all your comments, man. I feel a little bit more informed going after reading this kind of headline because when you see stuff like this, I saw all the public backlash on it. I saw even a post from the United Nations condemning her comment, but what actually like these people still hold these positions, man. So what y'all are saying about voting and really getting involved in every chance you get to make your voice heard, I think that's definitely the course of action to go. That's probably priority number one when it comes to addressing these politicians and just holding people accountable. That's what democracy is for. So it's up to us, man. We gotta hold our leaders accountable. And I like what y'all are saying also about just spreading awareness to each other, making sure your own circle knows what's going on too, so we can have strength in numbers because our community is powerful when we're on code with each other. So I appreciate this conversation. And but with that being said, this kind of leads into another similar kind of discussion because I feel like I've seen these kind of comments. This is not the only kind of racist kind of comment that was made about Mbappe during the World Cup. There's a lot of conversations regarding the French team specifically, but also just a lot of the a lot of the European teams that have players with African descent during the World Cup. There's a lot of diaspora uh, dilemmas, I would say, where you'd see online rhetoric about athletes of African descent choosing to play for European national teams, and how on social media and just in general discourse you'd see them being criticized for not representing the countries of their family's heritage. And yeah, it's you saw this a lot of different countries. So and this kind of like raises another bigger question about identity, like who you belong to. Are you should you be playing for this country? Should you be playing for this country? And what it means to be a part of the African diaspora. Because even for players who are playing for the United States, or not even outside of soccer, like we see this sometimes with like black athletes in America, African Americans. Like, why are you playing for a country that enslaved your ancestors? Like, we see this kind of conversation come up all the time in sports, especially on these international competitions. And uh, but it's a hard kind of dilemma because many people grow up connected to multiple cultures and kind of may have that feeling, that pressure to choose a side. Like like me personally, uh, like my dad's African American, my mom's Brazilian. So I mean, if I had the chance to play soccer, I don't even know who I'd pick, man. Like, should I play for the United States to enslave my dad's ancestors? Should I play for Brazilian Brazilian squad? Like, I don't even know what team to pick, man. But this that's a little inappropriate because this is a serious conversation. But it's just
You're good. You're
yeah,
good.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's that overall question about identity and intersectionality in the African diaspora. And my question to y'all is regarding this is just what you think about those kind of people who have these feelings regarding, like these strong feelings regarding who an athlete chooses to represent when it comes to like the national team they play for, and how can we kind of have healthier conversations about identity without questioning someone's authenticity? because it's something I notice a lot during these international competitions.
Nah, I'll start. Like, I'll for surely say this is a good question, Nate, because I think it could be really easy to always, I think, diasporically play the like identity, like, oh, like, do you match the identity card, or like, do you live up to what the expectations are? But like, a diaspora is like socially different, and so like, I think even like France's goalkeeper, Mike, Meganin, he's like a prominent person. I feel like that was in the media a lot during World Cup, because you saw a lot of backlash, like you were saying, from to him from a lot of like American fans specifically, about his heritage. But I think one thing is that he's always stood 10 toes down about his Haitian heritage, even though he plays for a European superpower team, or like a big European team like France, and he's also a goalkeeper. How many like black men do you see as goalkeepers in the cup? You got a lot of us as right backs, strikers, forwards, but not many of us in the goalie. That's arguably the most important position in the sport. You got to stop the other team from scoring a goal. So I think it's just, it's multifaceted. But I brought up Manjian because I feel like from what I've seen on Twitter and stuff from him, he's always been upfront about like what it means to be Haitian to him, and what it means like to have like pride in his heritage. And I feel like, if more people started to take that approach of like, what does this heritage that you represent mean to you, instead of like a loyalty test? Does that make sense? Like, it how does this show up for you? And like, people like Manjin are a good example, especially like someone of that mixed descent to European and Haitian heritage. And I think even Vinny Jr. himself is like another good example of this, where it's like, he's been racially abused multiple times in La Liga. If you watch La Liga or keep up with soccer like that, and like, you have multiple fans saying these crazy insults, bro, crazy, crazy. And I'm not even gonna repeat them, but it's just like he tries his hardest to work, I feel like, outside the bounds of football to try to make it less racist. And like, I think it's crazy because Vinny Jr. is 24 and I'm also 24, and so to be carrying that much weight on your shoulders, like related to like anti-blackness and almost like racism to yourself, again, from a whole country of people, I feel like that speaks volumes to the fact that like you can still be proud in your like lineage and heritage regardless of where you're at in the diaspora, but always knowing like we all may have grown up differently, or like have been socialized differently, but it's always something to talk about your heritage from pride instead of trying to prove it as like a loyalty test.
Yeah, I think this is. I agree with everything Jared said, especially from like a personal perspective. Like because, like the world is a very. Obviously, we're still segregated in many ways. We're also very integrated and very mixed, and I think intersectionality is a very normal thing for younger generations. Like we kind of grow up in so many different ways outside of nationality and ethnicity, just even like in subcultures that we're all into, right? I mean, soccer is a subculture in itself, and so like we're all able to speak a certain like same language because of like things that we're into that maybe other young kids like us when we was growing up weren't into, right? But what I will say, Nate, is you made me start thinking about so many bigger things. I think like from a sociological perspective, like I feel like sport is like the way that we actually wage culture war. It's one of the ways that we wage culture war, and it's one of the ways that we continue to kind of revisit history. I think it's also there's so much power in terms of sport. So even if we look at France, for example, right? I think it was the 2018 World Cup where Macron, at the time, their prime minister was really like, or president, whatever he is, was really, like, yeah, like they're all French, like, no matter where they're from, they are French, and we don't care what race they are because, they are French. And, meanwhile, and we all hear like, yeah, France, they them boys, but like, meanwhile, France is still a neo-colonial superpower that is, extracting all the wealth, resources, labor from Francophone West Africa, right? That's a reality. Like, that's still going on right now to this day. They're still the biggest perpetrator. Like, if we had a pantheon of colonizers, France would still be like number one. We're still doing everything we've been doing way back when. There's plenty of articles and exposés out there about how if France did not have this exploitative relationship with West Africa, the economy would be crappy. And when I went to Paris, like it was dope, but it was also like there's definitely flaws in this system. Like there's definitely things that like the dependency on this kind of economy that is still like so colonial is like, yeah, no, y'all like the socialism is cool, but it's also like not the best. So I think just power, right? Because if we think about Paul Pogba playing for Guinea, if we think about Mbappe playing for Cameroon or Algeria, two countries that have waged war with France, right? We think about Chouameni, Real Madrid playing for Cameroon, right? I mean, these are three or four players that would completely boost these countries' chances in advancing. And so, from a cultural standpoint, there is an argument. But hey, at the end of the day, it's an individual choice. So we respect the Antoine Semenyo's, who sounds like this Mike, but he plays for Ghana, right? I'm Nigerian by a majority of my heritage and ancestry, and they got the Inet boys, who are all British London guys who play for Nigeria. They choose to play, and so I think that's actually the beauty of the diaspora. It's like, yo, like we can kind of pick and choose like who we want to represent, and guess what? Like the power at the end of the day is like y'all can't deny us. Not to date myself, but I could remember I'm 30. I could remember turning on Premier League games, and it was like you had like maybe 5 black players per team, unless you were Arsenal. Like they was kind of always stacked, but like they were like the first like black team. But oh, my laptop be messing up. It wasn't common to see like a lot of black players at the national level. If y'all know Raheem Sterling, he was a kid who was amazing, super baller, and literally, if y'all look back at like the type of stuff they used to try to abuse him for in the British media, it made no sense. Like it made no sense. There was nothing. He never did anything wrong. He wasn't a rowdy kid. He wasn't some like bad misbehaved kid. Such a cool brother, was just unapologetically black, and he was the first one in his new generation to be that way. And there's so many players. Even if we think about the fan culture, Romelu Lukaku is going to be one of the best strikers of his actual generation, of his age group. I don't care what people say when you look at his numbers, look at what he's won, the competitions he's been in, but yet he's memed. I fully believe if he was not a brother, he would still have lots of respect. But he's a meme, and so like there's so many ways in which anti-blackness sometimes is attempted to be reinforced through soccer. Unfortunately, even if we look at how like people like Jude Bellingham are perceived, right, versus a Vinny. Vinny dances, he's darker, and then people want to be racist. But Jude, class act. And that's not, me being colorist or anything, but it's just even still the perception that we reinforce sometimes as fans through the game. So for me, it really is all about a cultural power thing. Someone like Macron, a white leader in a European nation that wants to come across as super progressive, is going to say, we're all French. That's the beauty of all this. And he's also going to say, it's a privilege for them to be French. He's going to say crazy stuff like that, when they're choosing to represent your country. It's a privilege for you to have these players, right? But I think we should never lose sight of the historical context. And I would just end on what Jared said about someone like Mike, the French keeper from AC Milan. I think we're seeing a lot of players who are so much more outspoken with their platform now, regarding a number of different geopolitical issues and just history. And so I think it's nice that we're actually at a point where the game is actually stimulating this kind of conversation, because I don't really remember it being like this in 2014 and at all. Like that's it was still very like kind of like just whitewashed, a lot of this stuff. So that's my little spiel.
Yeah, lots. I feel like a lot could be spoken about here. I feel like caveat the conversation with like first you have to be good enough to be able to compete for both of the teams first of all, and then we have to consider like rules with FIFA. They're like grandparent rules, so it could be your parents or your grandparents. Some countries are parents, some countries are grandparents, and you could inherit into like whatever. So and I don't know. I feel like it's interesting in so many ways, but it shows like the multicultural nature of the world, the multicultural nature of football. It shows a lot of the colonial history of the world and how it still shapes a lot of things that happen in the world, even if we don't think about it. It's happening, and we could see that in the World Cup. But I think like the issue here is it's always um, the comment is always negative towards, I think, black people who are choosing to go to European nations. And as Winston said, it is just that the lens in which the world is, they just tend to have more of a negative uh, vocalization of things. I was watching a video recently where they were talking about this exact same thing, where like depending on who the player is, the commentator would use different type of language that kind of resonates with a lot of like what you were saying. Um, but I guess I'm digressing from the point here. But I think like to I feel like belonging, identity, all those things are so interesting in the world that we live in today. And playing for one nation or playing for another nation doesn't take away your identity, the culture, the community of whatever your like lived experience has been. Um, but yeah, it is interesting because we don't even talk about like Hakimi, for example. He was born and raised in Spain, but he plays for Morocco. But we don't talk about that because it's the other way around. But there are many cases like that. But yeah, Winston.
I was gonna say, I don't know if Brahim Diaz is like that, but I remember he was eligible for Spain, played in their youth teams, and then switched to Morocco. But I was just gonna add, yeah, I think like all of this is also like fear of multiculturalism as well. Like when some of like these racist things come up, because like even we see it in the NFL, like in the United States, where like see white people, right, and then somebody takes a stance against something or tries to call out history, and it's like, oh, banish this person, right? And so I think that's like another thing, like just like to Omar's point, like and so for me, it's actually power on both sides. Like I think if like you choose, and I'm not saying that just to like appease like both sides of the argument, but like if you choose to like represent France, and it becomes like a predominantly black team and it's one of the best, it's like, well, that actually is power for the diaspora in many ways, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, it would be beneficial, like for those players that play for maybe the nations of their parents. So I mean, it's I don't know. It's just an interesting take. But yeah, great question, Nate. This just came on my bad.
Did you want to say something, Jerry? You had your mic open.
Nah, I was gonna pop in too, and I was gonna even talk about like you have like a prominent person, even like Lamine Yamal too. Like, I mean, he kind of was like a breakout star of the cup, and like, his dad's Moroccan, his mom is like Ecuadorian. He grew up in Spain, and then like the kind of push and pull between Morocco and Spain for this whole past year to try to get him. It's like you kind of like you feel like what you're saying, Winston. Like you almost have to realize like it could be a power thing, or it could also be something where he may not fully understand it, and picking one or the other might cause fans to have these certain reactions. Like as a community, we have these reactions to, oh, he's playing for like the European powerhouse versus like going back to like his roots, or like just these different things. And so it's just it's very complex. I think multiculturalism comes in so many deep ways that we could talk about in conversation, but like low key we don't got all the time.
No, actually, so I'm sorry. You made so Lamine is a just fascinating case study to me, actually, because I think we
Yeah,
do
yeah,
got to
yeah.
go deeper into multiculturalism, because that's essentially what it is. So I remember, first of all, like just for him to be so young, and I think for him, I mean, you mentioned Vinny in 24 is extremely young, but Lamine is 19, so like and he's sitting here
Yeah.
like he's sitting here flying like the Palestinian flag. You know what I'm saying? Like he's standing on business. He was at a game, a Barca game, or a Spain. No, it was a Spain game. Like I think a World Cup
Yep, yep,
qualifier
yep.
or something like that. And they were rooting anti-Muslim chants. And he put out a tweet after that, like, I am Muslim. Lamine is black. He is Moroccan, so maybe a little bit of Berber or Arabic as well. He's African as well, and then he's hella
Yeah.
Spanish. I mean, like he's a Spanish person, like a Spanish guy, a Spanish kid through and through. And then also, he comes from an area. I think 304 is the code in Barcelona where it's a lot of immigrants. It's hella people of color, and so it's like if people take the opportunity to really like just assess like how represented. And then also he sags his pants. Like when I first seen him, I was like, because for me, y'all, like again, like I know I'm not that old, but I just be thinking like certain things, like would a trend like that really last like multiple generations? Because we
Right.
were like told don't be sagging. That's how like they talk to us. So to see
Depends,
this
bro.
16, 17-year-old kid in Spain, in Barcelona, in the Champions League, sagging after he just scored 2 goals, you're like, we hella this is happening so much faster than I ever thought. Like we are here,
Yeah.
you feel me? And so like and people may cringe at that or may think, oh no, that's all performative. It's like no, like this is authentically who he is. He's all of these beautiful things. And that's wonderful. That's what makes us dope. That is humanity. It's so much more complex than the city you're from or what race you are or what religion you are. It's like we are very layered people. So let's embrace it. I don't know. You just got me going when you brought up Lamine because like I was like, it's hard not to root for him.
You're good.
You
You're
know,
good. Like I think like you said, he's a great case study because like everything you said, I agree with. You know.
yeah,
I don't
he
know, Mario.
represents so
Did you want to
much.
chime in too?
No, no, no. I agree with that. Like, I think like to think about identity as one layer, like being from one country, it does a disservice to all the other layers of identity. So I think it's important to always try to, I don't know, try to think about things from that multi-identity, multicultural perspective.
Yes, sir. I love this discussion, man. You can't put black in a box, man. This boy's gonna represent no matter where we're playing, man. I love
Facts.
this.
Facts. Facts.
Yes, sir. But we were talking about the Diaspora. Now let's go back to America. Uh, yeah. So this was a big World Cup for America. We were obviously the host country, and for a minute there we were looking legit. We had I believe we broke the record for U.S. goals scored in the group stage. So and we had a pretty hot start. We had all the brothers representing Balogun, uh, Malik Tillman, all them brothers, man. I feel like I'm not good with names, but those are two of my favorite players I've seen represent. Weston McKinney,
I was gonna
yeah,
say Weston McKinney's an underrated goat. Always been
yeah,
solid.
Chris Richards, man. You see now it's coming back to me, man.
Chris
It's
Richards,
been a
that's my.
minute.
He's good too. I like him. I think he's good. There's
Yeah,
the right back. I didn't know him. I think is. I don't know if he's in the MLS. Is he? Because he was good.
He was new to the team. Yeah, he's young.
Yeah,
What's his name? Like, is that
Cowell?
F?
No.
he was somebody I didn't know, but he was good though. He was good, and I think he's a brother. He's a brother too. But yeah, there's quite a few people.
Yeah,
Freeman, Alex
but
Yeah.
Freeman.
oh, Alex Freeman, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Freeman.
Yeah. And then Serginho Dest, I mean, it was nice to see. It's always very random when I see him, but as a winger, I was like, oh nah, like he was cooking,
Right,
and he's
He
really
right.
so, like it was
was.
great. And he's someone that I can't remember the first time because he's Netherlands for sure, but I want to say he was eligible for another country before that. He's somebody that's very interesting as well. We have these players on our own team. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. All this just to say, man. Soccer's this. We got something cooking in America with soccer, man. But it's surprising that it's taken this long when you think about it. Or is it really though? Let's talk about it because we know that soccer is the world's most popular sport. But in the United States, relatively speaking, with all the resources America has as a very wealthy nation and all of the different cultures we have in America, you'd think there'd be more soccer talent, or you think we go further in this tournament, given everything we have in our country, but we've really struggled to really develop our like a diverse talent pool up until recent times compared to many other countries, and a lot of this is attributed to people pointing to certain barriers in our soccer developmental system, like our high participation costs, limited accessing to limited accessibility to quality coaching and facilities, transportation challenges, and just fewer opportunities in underserved neighborhoods to just play the game. Period. And these are all just public health issues too, because when you think about it, access to recreation and organized sports in general, that those are things that even if you don't make it to the pro level, it influences your physical health, your mental health, education, all these great long term benefits, as well as just being another opportunity uh, for a player to pursue their dream, man. Like if it's just another opportunity. If there's soccer players out there that just don't have like that have the potential but don't have the resources, man. Like that's it's just another another way the system kind of restricts access to opportunities to our communities of color, man. So, with that being said, with knowing what we know about the soccer developmental system in America, I want to ask y'all, as the public health experts, what are some of the what do you think is like the biggest barriers in your opinion? I went over some of them, but what I know that y'all are soccer fans. Y'all might be closer to the game. I'm more of a I love soccer, but I'm not I'm more of a American football and basketball guy. I love soccer too, but I think y'all everyone here is a little bit more well versed in soccer. I'm kind of really getting into it now because of the World Cup. But what do y'all think are the biggest barriers in your experience with soccer regarding uh, young people of color being prevented to reach their full potential in the United States? And what changes do you think our system should make that would make the sport more accessible and maybe create more opportunities for the future to come?
Yeah, I'll take this one first because I just came off as my first season of coaching, so I have like a
Yeah.
actual exposure to the system. Coached a U12 team. Went two and actually yeah, I think 2 wins, 2 draws, no losses. So feel pretty good. Although it was all just the kids. So the first thing I always say, Nate, is representation. Interesting because like I started playing soccer like organized, like serious with my high school in 2010, and I want to say there was maybe like out of like 25, 26 players, there were maybe like four black and like two like Hispanic Latinx. Everybody else was white, and we went to like an inner city school in Philly, like downtown Philly, and still everybody was white. And so like but it was an immersive experience for me. But I did have comments all the time like, "Oh, you over there with them white boys," like from brothers, from black dudes, for sure. My cousins used to be like, "Yeah, you a little foot fairy." That's what they used to call me because I played soccer. Yeah, so there was definitely a stigma on it, and so I think representation is big because, like, now every soccer player like is super tatted and like dripped out and like with all the stars, and it's appealing now. You feel me? Like we got people that look cool, but like the first super duper tatted player that I saw, if it wasn't David Beckham, it was a Portuguese guy by the name of Raul Morelos. I was cool enough, or not cool enough. I was, young enough and impressionable enough to think he was really cool and be like, "Ooh, like this is dope. Like, what is this culture? What is this about?" But I mean, like for the most part, we just Freddie Adu was like, if you ask like the average American like black kid who didn't play soccer, like you might get lucky if they say Freddie Adu, right? Like when I was probably still like in the 6th grade, the first time someone showed me a Ronaldinho video, he was black to me. Like that, number one, like I looked at him as black, even though I knew like, okay, there's context here, this is different, Brazilian, but he was black, and he was with Jordan and stuff, Nike. So I saw it very early, like yeah, there's drip, like this is our culture, this is us. But I think in a country where we live like the world revolves around us or the universe revolves around us, and so many of us don't even, and it's unfortunate, and I'm generalizing here, but there are a lot of people who just aren't interested in knowing about different cultures, different sports, different things. So I think representation is the biggest thing for me, because the costs unfortunately are here. It's ridiculous. the club that I was at, I think the fee was like 3,000. Now they're going up to like 7,000, and they're still like, we're one of the cheapest, like in Nashville. And I'm like, what the hell are y'all talking about? And unfortunately, they are though. They are, which is crazy, right? And I was in one of their meetings. It's all, you know, travel, hotel fees, you know, just crazy stuff. So the cost is there, just like with the AAU circuit in basketball. Unfortunately, like it's a pay-to-play system at this point. So there's a socioeconomic, you know, kind of chasm that's creating. We don't have as many rags to riches stories, which is, I think it is something to assess, maybe within our community. So I think that's like one thing, the cost. But I think even as a coach, and then I'll end on this, even as a coach, like my team this year was more diverse than the team that I played on, but it was a lot of mixed kids actually, right? And unfortunately, I could still tell that experience of being like one of the few or one of the only, because our diversity was mainly mixed. When I say a lot, so it was still a small percentage of the total team, but of the diversity, a lot of them were, you know, multiracial kids. Man, and they definitely like wanted to flex their black side with me, and I kind of felt like good, like being able to be like maybe like a big bro or somebody that's like an extension of the culture that they see. And it was very fascinating because they responded to me way more than like the two black kids we actually had on our team, like all the so it was funny. And so I think even being there as a coach and like validating that soccer is cool, you know, being able to come with the speaker, play certain music, use certain lingo, like it helps to continue, you know, tell people like, nah, this is cool. And then Lamine is our greatest asset, right? Like there are people now that I know don't know anything about soccer. My homies hit me up.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm like, oh, okay, like that's good, bro. So you know, I think it's just it's representation is the biggest thing, because I think you outlined so many great things regarding the public health impact, and unfortunately, I think cost. You know, we live in a capitalist society, so unless we have, I said I was going to be done talking. Mamdani, I think he actually just made like some type of ordinance where there's like parks now like open till like midnight or something, like free play parks or whatever. So we need to advocate for more stuff like that. To Amari's point, it's not just voting; it's also going to like, planning meetings and trying to pitch ideas and stuff. So yeah, we could talk about pay to play. I'm sure someone will bring that up, but for me, outside of that, it's definitely representation.
Yeah, I think I ditto everything you said, Winston, because yeah, I definitely see the pay to play of it. I mean, even like personally, like I realistically didn't start getting into playing soccer until like I was in high school too. And I had always been like watching La Liga or like on the weekends, like just going to hang out with my friends. But I never had like, you know, the opportunity to like meet up with someone on like a turf and like have like a goal and go shoot at it until I went to high school. And even so, like I don't know, I think that's a very common thing that happens for like you would be surprised, but it happens to a lot of California kids because it's like unless you're actually in those like wealthier places in the state, like you know places like Orange County or even places like the Bay Area, in those like upper echelon neighborhoods in those areas as well. You're not gonna get access to like the MLS academy or the MLS camp where you see the next like talent being produced, and these are people who are also playing with you in high school. But I think like you said too, like we gotta kind of more attack it from the policy lens, and I feel like for me personally, because I have a sister who played like Division 1 softball. You know, there's not many black girls that like are in that sport in general, and when they are, they get so subjugated to like one position. And very oftentimes that doesn't their success doesn't come without, you know, having prior to being like recruited or having been able to even go to like a place to get recruited, right? And so you have things like Title I, for example, and like the NCAA. I feel like that's like one of the like biggest controversies when you talk about this like access to participation in youth sports. Because oftentimes like Title I covers an athlete's ability, you know, for the academic support portion, but as you see today too, like, you know, wellness and mental health is also important, and Title I at the moment doesn't currently cover those kind of support services. And so even in California too, we have like a new behavioral health mandate kind of with our behavioral health system. We're seeing a lot more of this concept of like having wellness coaches. And so even if something like Title I could cover a wellness coach for like a Division 1 athlete, like a good example of someone who literally probably fits this exactly is Trinity Rodman. You know, her dad is a major NBA player, but if you look into her story a little bit, you find out she almost quit soccer because of the cost. And like, she didn't get to play for Spirit of, I forget what state it's from, but she didn't get to play for Spirit until the draft. And that wasn't even until after she stopped playing at Washington State, where she didn't even get to Washington State until she got recruited. So you kind of see like there's this domino effect. This starts really, really at like that policy level, where like if we're seeing changes to Title One, I think even for me too, like I could even say like a bigger policy change might have to also be just something that's like a social policy change, right? I think oftentimes like you see a lot of these like strength and conditioning. If you do have access to being able to play at this high of a level, you see access to like these strength and conditioning things, or like you see a lot of these like college athletes will go home and work out with specific folks or specific programs. I know for a fact, like in where I grew up, there was a program. It was related specifically to football, and you have people like coming back from like these major colleges going to this thing called True Grit, and you don't have a lot of like like Sacramento boys that made it big. Man, who's like the kid from Folsom? He just started playing quarterback, I think, at BYU. I'm forgetting his name, but he's white, so he's not really. Well, anyways, but nonetheless, like you have these like development camps that are owned by us sometimes too. And you don't see us putting our own dollar back into the development camp to try to increase young people's participation. So sometimes even like a social policy way, I guess, or even like just the social norms, like investing within ourselves too. But I definitely think like it starts at policy for sure, and like Title One funding really supporting like the access to sports beyond just the academics. It's also taking care of the whole person, and that kind of brings the public health aspect to it. And much like you said, Winston, even the socioeconomic status, I think that also plays a huge role too into what could be changed.
Yeah, and just to add to the conversation, I guess before, I think Foot Fairy, that's funny as hell. People stupid as hell as well. I would have ran with that, bro. I'd have been like, yo, that means I'm magical, Like, I don't know, I don't know. But anyway, I've been playing football since I don't know, since I was 4 or 5. I also played when I was in Trinidad, so completely different system. Not to say our system is good. I know it's gotten a lot worse since Jack Warner, who was part of FIFA's stuff, is gone. A lot of football in Trinidad has gone downhill. But regardless, I would say I was playing on like a semi-professional team when I was like under 13, 14, 15, 16 before I left Trinidad. And, my family has means. We're privileged in a lot of ways. And we used to pay. So how the club was there, you could pay for like the club sessions, and it'd be Saturday, and then there's the actual team, and not everyone that's on the actual team is like paying for it. If people are good enough, and they will create a way, or the wages from the club used to pay for like some of those people to be a part of the team. I don't know if that happens anymore. No idea what the state of of Trinidad football system looks like. But I thought it was also cool today. I was in Bertie County, 17,000 people, rural county in North Carolina, and I was in a room with these like third and fourth graders wearing an Arsenal jersey, and this kid would just come up with me, Cristiano Ronaldo, see, and I was so taken. I was like, these kids know about this, and then he hits a little dance and stuff. I was like, and then the person I was with was like, who's the best soccer player in the world? Is it Messi or is it Ronaldo? And all the little kids like, Ronaldo. So I think like there is a change, a culture to see that in a rural region where North Carolina is known for its like football, American football. To see like those kids actually knowing about Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi and World Cup and stuff like that, I think shows that things are changing. But I think like even to those kids, they are maybe an example of why it is so hard for young people of color to succeed in this sport. Is like they're in a rural region, they don't have opportunities to play as much as other urban regions. Transportation is going to be a huge challenge, and that's a huge challenge for anyone, regardless of if you're in a rural or urban region, and especially if you don't have like the means to have someone pick you up, take you, etc. Um, but I think we really need to continue to think about like youth sports just in general, including football, as a public health investment. Um, Not just investing in like professional leagues and like semi-professional leagues for youth, but community leagues, pick up soccer, school programs, really building robust ways for people to play regardless if they're planning to go professional or take it seriously. But I think that is the way that how we cultivate a lot of people who mightn't get in that traditional professional route, but might develop later on or find an aptitude to this later on. So yeah, that's what are my thoughts.
I do just want to reinforce because I think that's a brilliant. I mean, it sounds kind of corny. I feel like sometimes it's like a public health initiative, but it's like no, it actually is like sport. Like if we strip capitalism away from sport, it actually can really be a great public health initiative in terms of like actually physical health number one, in terms of like just the community, right? I got so much character development from soccer and like from just participating in that, as a group. And so I've always looked at it as like a personal development initiative. And I feel like we hear stories of like Memphis Depay, somebody who also Guinean by blood, but reps the Netherlands. And he talks about how like, yo, if I didn't have the cages, like the free public, street courts, oh man, what would I have been doing as like a young black kid, fatherless, growing up, trying to navigate like the Netherlands like that? And so when we even think about it as like a preventative measure, right? We know like basketball courts, parks, we know like these things that are invested in a good manner, these programs, yeah, they actually do prevent these things. So I think it's like also just, and I think Amara, you said it best, like this isn't about making it pro. I mean, if some of y'all do that, that's great. But it's not about making it pro, getting 250K per week in some European like team. This is about staying alive, staying fit, being in community, and just like being positive and reinforcing positive things. So I wanted to reinforce that. I think that's so important. Like, we got to be serious about some of these initiatives, y'all. Because I get a little like scared myself trying to pitch those kind of ideas, but it's like no, like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think being in school, maybe I have my, I'm so surrounded by like the idea of like, man, how can this be put into practice for myself? And I actually just recently came across, I know the American Sports Medicinists, I know that institute, they have like a physical activity for public health certificate. It's a PAPHP, and it's like 300 something dollars, and it's a short course, but even if you want to get like certified in like creating physical activity programs for public health interventions, like that's a real certification, a real job you could have in the field. Like I think it's a really cool, I could share it at the end with y'all, but I think it's a really cool certification. I just came across it at my campus. Like they had it on like the list of like, oh, here's certifications you could get, like you should take advantage. So Amari, I'm really glad you even mentioned like sports as like a population health like intervention really for public health.
Yeah, man. I feel like, especially as the fact that we were the host country, more eyes were able to, or more light was able to be shined on the World Cup and soccer in general. And I think that's funny that Mario was mentioning how the kids were into Ronaldo. I think, and even Winston talking about how important representation is. Like we got streamers like Speed. I think that's probably why they're into Ronaldo so much. You got influencers.
Well, I just want to be on the record as well. Messi over Ronaldo. I
Oh,
wanted to
here we
put the
go.
kids
That's a whole
down,
other
but
podcast.
I'm gonna be nice to the kids and let them do their thing. I see Winston shaking his head. I see Nathan got a little sad, but that's all
Yeah, I
right.
mean,
That's all right.
yeah, that's a fair assessment. I can't even hate after what I saw this year, man. But I I mean,
What you
last
mean he
time.
got carried by the refs this whole year? What are you
I
talking
mean,
about? What are you
I'm not taking
talking
that
you got
away.
the
about?
score
They
though.
definitely got carried by the refs. A lot of questionable calls for the World Cup, but that does not take away from Messi's career and the GOAT that he is.
Listen, after both of them stood with Trump, I don't think either of them are good. Give me Paul Pogba.
That part,
Give me
he
Paul
should have
Pogba. Give
spat
me
on his hand when he
Neymar.
shook his hand.
Yeah, give me everybody else. Give me Lamine, give me Rodri. I don't care anybody else. Those people are not my
Shit.
goats. But it is nice to know that it's crazy to know that kid is. I mean, that conversation is still going on even with the youth. Kind of like LeBron versus Jordan and Kobe and all that. It's just very interesting. Like you think some of this stuff just keeps going, but it's like nah, this is very impressionable. So we have an opportunity. But yeah, sorry Nate.
Nah, it's just the point I was trying to make, man. We got representation, man. We got a lot of momentum building with this World Cup, having it here in the United States. I believe last time we hosted, immediately after that, that's when the MLS was formed. So, and I'm sure that started a cascade of what we were able to generate this year in our talent pool and our roster and just growing the sport in America. So, there's a lot of hope as we leave this World Cup chapter regarding the growth of soccer in America and all communities, man. So it's just very exciting to see what's gonna happen going forward, man. And I think it's on us, man. We have public health bros. We got to push these initiatives, man. It's up to us to advocate for these different programs and make sure that everyone has a chance to play soccer if they're interested, man. There's a lot to be gained from that. And as we kind of wrap this episode up, we're gonna wrap up a little. We could, that messy debate could be a whole episode, but I just want to have two more friendly type questions as we wrap this episode up. Little quick rapid fire type questions. Uh, the first of which we could go around quickly, just say what our answer is. From this year, what was your favorite World Cup memory or moment in the tournament, and why?
Well, for me, it'll definitely be going to the quarterfinals to watch France play Morocco in person. Outside of that, that third place game was fire. France 4, England 6. That was a game.
True football on the world
That was
stage.
like no defense, just attack, bro. And I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. Speaking of that, like that was my favorite. That was my favorite match. Honestly, was England versus France. I can't lie.
For me, favorite moment was Sydney Lopez Cabral, Cabo Verde, scoring that banger against Argentina. Oh my God, I just was
That
waiting. I
goal
was
was
praying for them to get
crazy.
that
I'm gonna watch.
every
I'm gonna watch
time.
it afterwards.
Yo, that was that I'm the blood in my body. I was like, oh, they're gonna do it, and then of course, same old same.
Yeah,
But yeah,
refs and
that's my
stuff.
It happened, bro.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I was kind of hate watching Argentina the whole time, so I feel like that was one of the moments for me. But I think the ultimate euphoric moment in my hate watching journey came during the Egypt game when they scored the second goal after the first goal got or after their original second goal got called back. When they scored that, they went down the whole field again that second time, man. That was I thought it was over, man. There's only about 10 minutes left in the game. I was riding high, man, but then it happened. It happened, man, and that's why I don't like when it comes to that message debate, man. I feel like I definitely agree that the refs were kind of exploiting that game, man, and just throughout the entire tournament. But bro, the fact that he scored or he was able to generate these plays, like he still has to do it, bro. He still has to get these goals in
Nah,
the net, man.
bro,
He still has to
no,
play
bro,
make, man.
no,
I don't
bro.
know.
He's no, bro.
Yo, let's
Listen,
let let's change topic before we lose some friendship here,
listen,
dog.
listen. At the end of the day, this is what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. I'm not gonna even comment on Messi because I loved him for a second. That's all I'm gonna say. Argentina and what they did during this tournament, y'all. Those that know this. There's so much deeper symbolism here, and in a beautiful fashion, it showed that justice will prevail. I know that sounds very preachy, but the good will happen. At the end of the day, good will always win. That's what them losing really showed. So that's the biggest thing I took away from this tournament. Honestly, no matter the corruption, you know, the right side is gonna win.
Yeah, yeah. See, the hate watching was the fun part, bro. So I think I'm on the same page with you, Wednesday. It's just that was the moment where I thought it was gonna happen. So I mean, watching also, I say Spain scoring their goal after their goal got called back too. That was a very happy moment for me too. But yeah, let's get back. Let's get that last question going. Uh, as we look to the future, who do you have winning in 2030? Like, what? Who's your pick? Way too early pick right now.
It sound crazy, but I said it at the beginning, and I still am saying it again. Morocco. Okay, we're playing on our soil. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be all I can say is that this World Cup was a great preview that Morocco can go toe to toe with about anybody, and I feel like give them the time. You know, it's definitely coming, and it would be cool to see like an African team like lift the trophy on African soil. I think that'd be so dope. So Morocco for me.
That's a pretty good shout. I feel like Morocco could have went a lot deeper if they had Saibari against France. It would have been a whole different game.
Yeah, that would have been a different game for sure.
Yeah, but I have to say Spain's probably gonna win it again. If I had to go top three, it was Spain, France, Morocco. That's my top three for 2030 World Cup.
Okay, for me, top three, I'll do the same as Omari. I think it's gonna be France. I don't know what they were doing in their game against Spain, but I also think they're gonna have Zidane. So they'll have Zidane as a manager. That's a big deal, and I think we didn't even see them really maximize their depth. Not all their players were healthy. There's going to be players that are still very young. Cherki, Ekitike, Olise. They're still going to be, in their prime. Dembele and Mbappe will be older, be a very seasoned team. Number two, I'm going to go England. I don't like Tommy Tuchel. I think he's actually poor. He gave that game away in Argentina. Disgusting. So very unhappy for them. Yeah, and if they get whatever team, if a national team gets Pep Guardiola, and Italy as being there, I just saw some Fabrizio post saying that Italy are looking to get Pep. If that happens, I have Italy as my number three. So those are my three. Yeah.
Imagine Pep takes that Italy job and they still don't make it to the World Cup.
Oh, that would be crazy.
That'd be a waste right there for real.
You think he
Real
ruins
quick,
soccer?
real quick, bro. I wanted to properly say the thing. Like the cert, it's called Physical Activity and Public Health Specialist Certificate Course. If anybody's looking for it, American College of Sports Medicine.
Appreciate you, bro.
I think France is coming with a vengeance, man. They need. I think Mbappe. They should have gone out the way they went out, man. I think he's coming back with a vengeance, and I think they know that they're running out of time too, because they're still. I think they'll still technically be in their prime. They're gonna be like early 30s. That's still in your athletic prime. I mean, we saw. I'm not even gonna bring it up again. We saw the OGs show out this time around. So I think sports medicine is getting different, but if they follow a traditional career trajectory as far as like health, I think they think they're running out of time, and I think this is the time to strike. I think they're gonna come with a vengeance. That I think they're gonna they were my pick this year, but I think they're gonna actually do it next time. I don't know. I think on paper Spain has the best betting odds, but just you don't really see too many people go back to back like that in a World Cup. That's really, really hard to do, man. So
You never say never. Never say never. You
They
never
play
know.
good football. I didn't have them going far, and they just play very solid football. And then some of their players, Orizabal or however you say that guy is on the national level. He's crazy. He's sick. He's like a ridiculous baller. So yeah, they really shocked me. Actually, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, they had a really good tournament. I feel like they peaked towards the end, but yeah, they just outplayed and kind of like neutralized everyone. France, Argentina, etc. Yeah.
all-time defensive effort, man. But that wraps up this episode, man. I just want to thank y'all as my guests. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Omari. Thank you, Winston, for participating in this very exciting discussion about soccer. We're feeling optimistic about the future of soccer in America and just throughout the entire diaspora. And I hope y'all feel politically inspired after listening to this episode. Anyone out there in the audience. So I just thank y'all for listening again. If you want to support Brothers in Public Health, feel free to follow us on Instagram, our LinkedIn account, Facebook, uh, at Brothers in Public Health. And if you want to donate or support us in another way, check us out on our website at brosinpublichealth.org. And yeah, I think that's about it, man. I appreciate y'all for listening. Peace out.
New merch drop. Check it out.